Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. Let me show you something. Are you wondering, Derek, what's in the bag? Well, if you saw the title, you probably know what's in the bag. But are you asking yourself, Derek, that looks like way more than 10. Well, yeah, it is way more than 10. Let me tell you what I've got here. These are my top 10. A friend of mine asked me to do a video about my top 10 decks. And frankly, I don't do favorites. I don't have favorites. I told my friend that trying to pick my favorite decks would be like trying to pick a favorite child. I don't have children. No, let me get that clear. I don't have children. But if I were to have children and someone were to say, which is your favorite child? I wouldn't do that. That's not the way I think. And I don't think that way about almost anything. The closest thing might be coffee. And even in respect to coffee, I don't have a top coffee. I've got a kind of coffee. I like dark roast coffees. So I like French roast, I like Italian roast, I like Vienna roast, I like Turkish coffee, I like traditional Vietnamese coffee. I don't have a favorite. Colors. I don't have a favorite color. I'll tell somebody I do if I need to, but I don't have a favorite color. I've got kinds of colors that I like. I like jewel tones, for example. I like crimson. I like deep ruby red. I like sapphire blue. I like royal blue. I've got a kind of thing that I like. I don't have a top. I don't do tops. So what I've got in the bag are my top 10 used decks. Now, next to my bed, I've got a bookshelf. And I have 2 shelves dedicated to cartomancy, tarot, oracle, and other systems. And from that, I have a group of decks that I use very regularly, either on a daily basis or on a monthly basis, or when I feel the itch. So what I've got are my top 10 tarot decks, and then other decks, which again, I use perhaps on a daily basis or a monthly basis, or other systems and decks from that I go for, that I reach for, when I feel the itch to work with a Lenormand deck or something else. So that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you my top 10 used decks. Now, these are not the most expensive. These are not the most unique. These are probably decks that you already know, but they're my top 10. So let me turn the camera down, and if you want, stick around and we'll take a look together. Again, I'm giving you my top 10 most used tarot decks, and they're not in any particular order. I am going to start with this one because it's the oldest one in my collection, the oldest one for me in my collection, the one I've had the longest. And this is back from the time when people were telling each other that we needed to keep our tarot decks in a wooden box, and we had to have them with covered with silk scarves. So I did all that at the time. This was back in the 1980s. And so this is a very precious deck to me, but I use it frequently, sometimes. Not as frequently as some of the others, because frankly, this is a deck that's sometimes a little difficult to read. It's a little bit gruesome for me. This is the Solleone deck. And let me open the box for you. Ta-ta-ta! And here is the title card, the Soleon Tarot. Now you'll notice that the decks that I'm showing you, many of them don't have boxes because I have them in bags and I just keep them in bags because I use them that frequently. Some of the decks I have are in boxes because they're mass market, and I'm not so worried about the box, or I have a backup of the deck, or the box came damaged. So this one is the only one that's actually in a beautiful wooden box. This is the Soleon Tarot. It is out of print. It's very difficult to find. But it's also, like I said, it's a little bit gruesome. Let me pull out my silk scarf covering that I have had since the 1980s. And I can smell the essential oils that I use with this deck. Let me set this to the side for now. And here we go. And we start off with the Hermit. Yeah? So the Hermit, that's not so gruesome, right? Well, that's not so bad. He's a little bit eccentric. He's a little bit wild, but not so bad. We have the Queen of Pentacles, Regina di Denari. She's not so bad. We have the Sette di Bastone. Now, you can see that this is not a typical image like a Rider-Waite-Smith image, right? Yeah. She's got wood on a fire, a very different kind of feel. It's a little more difficult for me to read, or had been. Here we have the Three of Wands. Let me get to, here, okay, so here's an example, very small example. But notice the red on this cup. That looks like blood to me. There's a lot of, for this, because it matches the red on these swords, yeah? There's a lot of blood in this deck. In the spades, in the cups. Now this is temperance, but not the kind of temperance image that we're used to, right? And look at this dog. The animals here are very, very feral looking. The World card, Il Mondo, spades. Look at this Justice card, being controlled by people behind her. It's a very dark deck as well. Yeah, look at this, kind of like a vampire, blood coming out. So that's why I'm saying this deck is just a little bit gruesome. And the images are different enough from the Rider-Waite-Smith that I really need to focus, and I really need to draw something out from within the darkness for me to get a reading that I'm pleased with. So this is my oldest top 10 deck. Not because it's necessarily my favorite, but one that I draw from the most often. One that I would use the most often. And let me see, I've got a pile of decks here. I'm not sure how I'm going to put them back after I've taken them out of their order. Okay, so the next are a set of 3. Yeah, these 3 decks are in tins, and they're in my bag all of the time. Yeah, they're in my bag every day of every week, so they're always with me. You can see my Morgan Greer is pretty banged up already, but I don't care that much because these are decks I can get again very easily at a very low cost. And I got them so that I can throw them around and put them in my bag. So you notice that I have 3 systems here. You have the Rider-Waite-Smith, I have a Tarot de Marseille spin-off, and I have a Thoth Tarot spin-off, the Zillich Tarot. And I love each of them. The Zillich is my most recent of the 3. Now, I started off with my Morgan Greer in a tin, which I like better than, for example, the actual Rider-Waite-Smith minis, because the images are large enough in this deck. Yeah, the faces are large, the images are large and simple. It's a much easier read for me because of how well they are zoomed in and pared down to the bare essentials. Yeah, so the Morgan Greer, I love this, especially in the mini. I have the large now, but I use this mini whenever I'm on the go. I get to a coffee shop, I'm sitting by myself and I want to pull cards. If you don't know this deck, there are walkthroughs all over the place. This is a very, very well-known, well-loved deck. And it's pretty old, but it's still in print. Yeah, like for example, look at this Two of Cups. A zoomed in image, pared down to the bare essentials. Yeah, the Sun, not exactly a Rider-Waite-Smith sun exactly, but you get the idea. We got the sunflowers, we got the wall, we got the sun. Yeah, the Knight of Rods, zoomed right in. We can see him very clearly. The second deck that I got of these three was the Tarot de Maria Celia, which is a beautiful little Marseille deck. And I say it's Marseille, it's a Marseille style deck, but it's not exactly a Marseille deck because the colors are different. The positioning is sometimes a little bit different. The arabesques are a little bit different from a traditional Marseille. Now this cup is a little bit different, but it's close enough to be able to read very easily Marseille style. So I love this deck as well. And then now that I've really zoomed in on getting over my trepidation about the Thoth system, I got this Zillich Tarot to have with me, to practice, to read with, whenever and wherever. Now, Five of Swords, this is not exactly a Thoth deck. Yeah, the Thoth deck is a pip deck, and this is Five of Swords. Definitely shows a scene. However, we do see defeat, and we have the Thoth titles here. Now we have worry here. So even though the symbols are not the same, the system is the same, and we might call it Thoth adjacent. Whereas this is very, very much a Marseille deck. The style is Marseille. This is Thoth adjacent, very close to, and good enough for a deck that is small and I can take anywhere. This is perfect. So these three decks are with me all of the time, day or night, at work, at play. They are with me all of the time, and I love them, and I use them. Okay, so those are my bang around decks, my most bang around decks. And next we're going to go with my, let's go with my Rider-Waite, because this is what I would call my study deck. Yeah, my favorite study deck. This is the Rider-Waite Centennial Borderless. Let's see, let me get rid of the art cards. I've got the art cards here, the Borderless edition. And this is my favorite. This is my favorite, one of my, not, okay. I don't do favorites. This isn't my favorite coloration. This is one of my favorite kinds of coloration, because I have other decks which are actually perhaps even better colored. I have the Pam's Delight. I have the CS Smith Tarot from Make Playing Cards, which actually I might prefer their coloration, but this one I know I can get anytime. It sits right by my bed. I love that it has no borders, and I love that the tones are soft. Yeah, they're softer toned, and I love that they're borderless, and I love the way it shuffles, and I love the way I can just bang it around and not worry about it. So I use this when I want to play with tarot, when I just get the itch to reach for a Rider-Waite Smith full-size deck. I use this when I want to practice spreads, for example. I don't know if you've ever heard of 365 Spreads. It's a book about that gives a spread per day. So when I worked through that book, this is the deck I used. And when I go back to play with that book, this is the deck I use. When I want to pull a Rider-Waite Smith deck in the middle of the night, this is the deck I use. And I love the backs on this deck. The other Centennial deck is more of a bluish color, a bluish green, a lighter green. I like this dark olive green myself. I prefer this coloration to the other Centennial. It's not my favorite back, but between those two, I like this one better. Okay, so that is my Rider-Waite-Smith deck that I use all of the time. The next one I'm going to show you is the Tarot de Marseille deck that I use the most, not being, well, the most over time. Now, this is a facsimile of a Conver deck. And frankly, when I first got this deck, if you've seen my tarot journey, my journey with tarot hashtag video, if you've seen that, you've already seen this deck and you've heard that I did not like this deck when I got it. Yeah, I purchased it because I wanted to study the three systems, Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, and Tarot de Marseille together. And I thought I believe that we should have all three together, just to study. When we study cards and place them next to each other and see the differences and how each system handles the card. When I got this, I did not like it. I really, really did not like it. I disliked it so much that after trying to work with it a few times, I put it aside and I hid it at the bottom of a pile somewhere. Because of these faces, for example, it's really, really hard to see the faces. The lack of clarity was distressing to me. I didn't like the fact that there was this white border and then this other colored background. I didn't like the fact that the swords looked like they had been sandpapered down. I did not like this deck. However, after doing a couple of months of study with another tarot deck, the CBD Tarot by Joseph Ben Dov, after working with that deck and meditating with that deck, I pulled this one back out and I realized I had fallen in love with this one. So when I want to pull a Tarot de Marseille deck in the middle of the night or before I go to bed, and I just think, I want to do a reading, I want to read something, I want to play with a deck, and I want to do a Marseille deck, this is the deck that I'm going to reach for. Now, it's small, it's easy to shuffle, it's gorgeous. I see that it is gorgeous now. I did not see that at first. But now I love it. It's one of my most comfortable decks. So this is my Tarot de Marseille baby that sits by my bed. And that I don't care. I don't care if I toss it around. I don't care if it gets damaged because I can get another one. And then here is my Thoth. This is a deck that I am using now daily for meditation. I used it daily for a while, but now I'm using it differently daily. Now I'm doing a one-card draw, and then I'm using that one card that I draw as a meditation image. I put it in front of me as I sit for meditation, and sometimes I do some path work with the cards, sometimes I do not, but this is my Thoth deck. And unfortunately, it is not a greenie. If it were a greenie, I probably wouldn't use it daily. This is just a big ol' honkin' common Thoth deck. I've got another Thoth deck that is edged. This is not edged. So, and you can see that the edges have gotten a little bit grayed over time, right? Because I use this a lot. I shuffle it a lot. And I don't worry if my hands are pristine or absolutely clean because I've got another deck. I can get this one again. So I'm getting much more comfortable reading with the Thoth. Looking at the astrological and planetary, the astrological and the planetary markings on the cards. Looking at it as a different system, not reading this as a Rider-Waite-Smith system, and not being trepidatious about using this deck. I've always loved the art. Even when I was afraid to use this deck, I loved the art. but there was something about this deck that just made me think I'm not smart enough to work with it yet. Even when I was learning Tarot de Marseille, I kept thinking, no, I don't know enough. I'm not smart enough to work with this deck. But now I am. And so there it is. This is my Thoth deck that sits next to my bed and next to my meditation table. So now here are two other decks that I love, and I have them in their boxes, and their boxes are beat to pulp, basically. This is my True Black, and I love this deck, and you can see that the box has fallen apart, which is sad, very, very sad, because I use this frequently. I use this often, and I have a backup copy, finally. I got a backup copy of this. I love this deck because of its, at once, simplicity and at the same time, its hidden depths. Yeah? Take the title card away. This was the last card I drew for myself, the Queen of Coins. So let me put it back inside the deck and let's look at it. I put it in upside down. Okay, so why do I love this deck? I love this deck because of its simplicity, and it's sexy. It is a very sexy deck to me. I love the black. I love the rich blackness of it. I love the whiteness of the figures, not because they are white people, but because of that contrast, the light against the dark. I love that. And because these are not white-skinned people like as in a race, they're just white, they're alabaster, like marble. They're like works of art to me. And then the richness of the golds in this deck is also beautiful. And I love the stamping on these decks. On this deck, I mean. For example, can you see, let's see, can you see the stamping? Yes, you can see the stamping on here. In some cards, we have very simple stamping. In some cards, we have very, especially in the majors, yeah? And for example, this is temperance, right? You can see the black stamping here, the yin and yang. Yeah, so there's a depth to this deck that is sometimes taken for granted, but I love it. I love this deck. Look at this Lover's card and the sun radiating out behind them in that, I think it's called UV stamping or cold stamping. Look at the red, the fire, water symbols, the balance. You've got kind of a hand fasting kind of thing going here. This is a beautiful deck, an interesting deck. And for some people, it's difficult to shuffle because this is one of the first decks that had that rose petal finish to it. And yeah, it can be difficult to shuffle. Even now, after using it for quite a while, it's a big, chunky deck. You can see that the edges have gone a little bit dingy. It's a big, thick deck, and but fortunately, I have thick hands, or big hands, so that doesn't bother me so much. Let me show you how it shuffles for me now. After all this time, yeah, I can do it. I can even bridge it, but you can see it kind of sticks there. It doesn't want to get all the way in immediately. Yeah, and then trying to get these two sides together is a little bit of a challenge. You gotta, I don't want to bend the cards, but I do have to do this to get the cards back into place. So yes, it's still sticky. It's still a little bit difficult to shuffle, especially now it's pretty humid here. These backs are gorgeous. So this is one of my most used decks because it's not easy to replace, but I already have a replacement that is pristine. So this I'll knock around, yeah? And I love using it. So that's my True Black. And probably, no, this is not the most expensive. This is close to my most expensive of my most often used decks. The next one goes the other way. This is the Spacious Tarot. And I got this box dinged up already. This is the These were leftover damaged decks from the first edition, the pre-corrected edition. The second edition has the card in here with the spelling error corrected, which I don't want. I did not want. I wanted the misspelling on the 3 of Pentacles. And maybe I'll be able to find it. But so I got the first edition, and then when I heard that there were these final remnants with damaged boxes, I said, yes, give me one. I quickly ordered in the middle of the night so I could be one of the first to get their bid in for this deck, because I wanted to have a box that was damaged so that I wouldn't have to worry about it so much. Yeah, and the deck inside, it can get dinged up because I have a pristine deck which had originally come in this box, in the clean box. So I've got my first deck, which is starting to show some wear, in the box from the second deck, which is dinged up. Yeah, the deck inside this was pristine, so I've got that deck inside my pristine box. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the Spacious Tarot, I love. This was what I called my soul card, my soul deck, I mean, because I had wanted it so much and I got it. And I love the fact that there are no humans in this deck. Yeah, I love the fact that I can put myself in the card. I love the fact that this is very Rider-Waite Smith. I mean, without the humans. You take the humans out, we got the 6 of Swords. It's not in a boat, but we got the swords in the water instead of a boat. We got the light in the distance. We're moving towards the light. Now we got the Fool, we got the Cliff, no dog, no human, but we get the idea. I can see the Fool here. I can see myself as the Fool here. Yeah, and for the court cards, we have animals. Pentacles, we have bears. We have fish for the cups. We have birds for the swords. And then what do we have for the wands? Oh, we have salamanders for the wands. So the chariot. Yeah, this is not a standard chariot card, but you get the sense of movement here. I can still see the Rider-Waite Smith. Now let me show you, okay, like I said, there's a fish, a carp for the cups, court cards, 6 of wands. Let me see if I can find my favorite card in the deck. And this one is a favorite because it is me. Yeah? Why is this card me? Let me show you why this card is me. And okay, so it's probably going to be at the very end of the deck, right? Let's see. Where are you, my baby? Where are you, my Derek card? Where are you? Here, there it is. There it is. My favorite card of this deck, and this one is a favorite. The 3 of Pentacles. Yeah, Penatcles. Why is this my favorite? Because this is just like me. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I have a little bit of dyslexia, and until somebody pointed out that this was misspelled, I did not notice it. But now that I know it's misspelled, I can see it, but I have to look at it. Penatcn. Yes, Pentacles. I have to carefully focus on it to see the misspelling, even though I know it. And so this card is me. I see myself as this card, not the meaning of the 3 of Pentacles, although I do like to collaborate, but this misspelling reminds me of myself, and I can see that I am fine, just as this deck is fine, even with this. Because of this misspelling, this deck is perfect to me, if that makes sense. So I love this deck, and it's a deck that I go for regularly, frequently, often. The Spacious Tarot, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful deck. Okay, so now we're at number 10 of my tarot cards. Now, where did we start? We started with my Solleone, Then we went to my 3 knockaround decks, my Morgan Greer, my Maria Celia, and my Zillich Tarot. So then number 5 was my Rider-Waite Smith Borderless. Number 6 was my facsimile of the Conver Tarot de Marseille. Number 7 was my Thoth Tarot. Number 8 was my True Black. Number 9 was my Spacious Tarot. And my number 10, I'm going to have to be very careful of how I show this to you, because it has nudity and it has some sexually explicit scenes. This is the Sabbath Tarot. Let me show you the bag. The Sabbath Tarot. And this is probably my most expensive of my most used decks. And I use it frequently because I use it with the accompanying Lenormand deck. Yeah, the Sabbath de Normand. I'm sorry, the Sabbath Lenormand. And I'll show you this in a moment. But first, let me show you this as my 10th tarot deck. I use it frequently because for my own personal, like weekly Lenormand readings, I use the Sabbath Lenormand, and then I use this together with it. I do like a 6 or a 9 card spread with my Lenormand, and then I pull 4 cards around that from my tarot. 1 for fire, 1 for water, 1 for air, and 1 for earth. Yeah, a wands, my passion, my creativity area, my emotion and intuitive area, my mental and thinking, communication area, my work and health area. So this is a beautiful deck. It is, again, the most expensive, and it came in a very posh bag. So did the Lenormand come with a very posh bag. I'll show you that in more detail. But I love this deck. And it is a deck of what people would call the left path. Yeah, you can see that the pentacle on the back is down facing. Can I show the front? Yes, I can show the front of this card. So here is the front of this card. Yeah, the Lady of Vessels. And here is the back of the card. You can see that the pentacle is pointing down. Now this is a black magic, or perhaps even some would call a satanic-based deck, but I do not see it that way. I do not receive it as Satanism, but rather as a deck of a very sexual deck. This is a sexual deck for me. You can see the red here. And okay, I can show you. I'm going to check which cards can I show you. So this is a very sexual, beautiful deck for me. Yeah, as and a perfect deck for, I believe, a gay male as myself. Now there are some men who would see this and say, I don't look like that. I don't like seeing men that look only like that in my decks, but I like it. I personally like it. Here is the 5 of Pentacles. We can see very small. There is a planet. There is the element stamped on here. Now we've got Mercury. We've got, this is actually a water, I believe. It should be Earth. It's difficult for me to see the difference between Earth and water in this deck. But we have the 5 down here. Can I show you the next card? Yeah, I can show you the next card. It's a but. It's okay. There are male gender shown very prominently in this deck. But here we have the 7. Yeah, the 7 of Swords. Okay, let me see. Let's move past this one. Okay, here we have the Chariot. I think these images are just beautiful. And okay, I can't show you that card. I can show you this card. Yeah, here we have the 7 of Cups. I love this 7 of Cups card. You can see that the image is coming out of him. We've got kind of a ritual candle here in front of him. We have Scorpio. We have, it looks like Mercury. We have water. Beautiful cards, beautiful deck. The cards are thick. Yeah, you need big hands to be able to shuffle this deck. But I think this is gorgeous. Now look at this Lovers card. Yeah, this is the love card, not the lovers, but the love card. Yeah, bound together. We get the tree. So the images are Rider-Waite adjacent, you might say. And there are 3 devil cards in this deck, and I use all 3. 3 different shades of devil. We have the angel, Lucifer, before he was fallen. We have the falling devil, and then we have the one who is fallen, and more of an animal, bestial, symbolic, Satan kind of devil. The high priest has his male gender, male parts showing, so I won't show that. We've got the 3 of Cups. I love this 3 of Cups. So this is my last tarot deck, the deck that I use, one of the decks that I use most often, probably once a week, for myself, privately. I don't show this often. This is probably the first time. No, not the first time. Maybe the first, well, I'm not sure. This might be the first time that I've shown this deck on camera. Okay, so the reason that this is last is not because it's my favorite or because it's my most expensive, but because this links into the next section of my frequently used decks. This is the end of tarot. Now we're going into different systems. And like I said, I use my Sabbath Lenormand on a weekly basis to do readings for myself. And I do a 6 or a 9 card pull, usually. And you can see that this deck also has the pentacle facing down, the left-hand path. The book is lovely. The book that came with it is beautiful. It has color, well, it has color in it, color images within it. And this is a very, very dark Lenormand. And some of the cards are a little difficult to read. Again, this also has nudity, just to let you know. And I won't show you all of the cards. But for example, this is the dog card. Yeah? If you know, you could tell that this is a dog, yeah? Although it's on a human body. Okay, this is the bear card. I love the gold borders on this. And these cards are big. These cards are big. Let me show you this in relation to a standard US Games tarot card. Yeah, it's bigger than a tarot card. This is the largest Lenormand that I have. And I will not try doing a grand tableau with this deck because it's just too big. I just need too much space. But 9 cards, 6 cards, other spreads are just fine. And I love using this deck because it's fun, it's interesting. Now this is the person card. This is one of the person cards, yeah? This is 28, which would normally be the man card. But in this deck, there are neither man nor woman. There are hearts for the people cards. And you can see that instead of a playing card insert, we have a tarot insert. So this is the Ace of Cups, which would be the Ace of Hearts. Okay, this is the heart card. Oh, genitalia. So this is the heart card. And yeah, this is the mouse card. And here we have I believe this is the 9 of Swords card. 10 of Swords card. See, I don't have these memorized. So this bit is a little bit difficult for me to read. And here's the Tower card. I mean, this is just gorgeous. But lilies, but again, it's a little bit difficult to read. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to read these. And a couple of the cards are actually difficult to read. For example, this one. Yeah, this is card number 34, which would be the, let's see, it should be the fish card. See, when this card comes up, sometimes I need to double check. Yeah, the fish card. This is the fish card. Yeah, you can see that, yeah, he's a mer person. There's a fish body, but I don't immediately see fish. I see that guy, frankly. The house card's not so bad, not so difficult to read, but I love that there are these guys up on their brooms. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, this is the clouds card. This is the clover card. So some of these cards need memorizing, remembering. Let's see here. Let me show you one more that's very often difficult for me to read, but doesn't show genitalia. Scythe is no problem. Okay, here. This is the birds card. It's a bat, but it's the birds card. Okay, instead of the cross, we've got a pentacle. So you just need to remember that. Let's see, moon. This is the other person card. Now this would be the lady card. The ace of spades, swords. Mountain's not so bad. Okay, whoa, male genitalia, never mind. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong. And see, I told you. This is why this deck is a little bit difficult for me to read. This isn't the bird card. This is the fox card. This is the fox card. Here is the bird card. Let me show you the birds. Here's the bird card. So I got confused, yeah? This bird is a bird head on a human body. This fox is a bat. So I love this deck, but I sometimes get a little bit confused and I need to check the book. And that's another reason why I don't do a grand tableau with this deck, though I love reading with it because I love the images on it, difficult as they are to read at times. Okay, so Lenormand. Let's move on with Lenormand. This is my Lenormand deck that I use the most often. Yeah, this is the one by Alexander Masruk. Yeah, and it's got gilding, which is showing its wear. The gilding is definitely showing its wear. I like this deck because it is simple to read. It's small. It's not the smallest deck. I've got minis, but I can do a grand tableau with this when I'm not using houses. Very easy to read, very small. The card inserts are very easy to read. It's the first Lenormand deck that I got before I got my other decks, my Game of Hope decks, for example. But these images are just really easy to read. Yeah? You see the key is a key, the dog is a dog. It's easy to read directions with this deck as well. You can see that those aren't lilies, that's just a bunch of flowers. It's a bouquet. Let me show you, let's see, a snake. I like that the snake is windy. We've got paths. We've got paths going off into directions. Yeah, everything that I need from a deck is basically here. This has additional people cards too. So we have additional lady cards and we have an additional man cards. We also have an additional child card, which is great. So if you want to put in a girl instead of a boy, you can do that. The thing I like about this is, if you notice, the man cards, if you want to use two men cards together, they face each other. So you can get that directionality. Sometimes in some decks, you get the extra cards, but they don't all face each other. Here, with the men, if you want two men, they can face each other. If you want one man and one woman, you can pick the ones that face each other. If you want a different man and a woman, you can pick the ones who face each other. If you want two women, you can pick the ones that face each other. Yeah? So this is a very flexible deck as well, which I love. So this is my most commonly used Lenormand deck. When I do want to do a grand tableau with using houses and a mini deck on top, I've got two other decks, but I don't use that as often because it takes a lot more time. So when I do a grand tableau just for myself, just to practice, I will usually use this deck. And so this is sitting on my in my bookcase right by my bed. I can pull it anytime I want. I'm watching a video about Lenormand and I think I want to practice that too. I reach for that. My next one is my Gypsy Witch. And I got this because I started studying Lenormand and I remembered my grandmother had a deck similar like to this. I wish I had her deck because hers would probably be worth more money than this one is. This is a very cheap deck. And I've accidentally ordered two by mistake, but it's very easy for me to read in my way. I don't read this in the traditional Gypsy Witch way. I read this in a Lenormand way. And so I don't use this information much. I've developed my own meanings for what the wine means, yeah, for what this safe card means, what the swords card means. And then we have the traditional Lenormand cards, although the playing card insert is different, the number is different. I read this like a mouse card. Yeah, I read this as a snake card, even though the number is different and the insert is different. So sometimes I reach for this when I want to read Lenormand, but I don't want to read Lenormand. I want something a little bit different. So I reach for this deck. And I love this deck. So this one, again, I don't care if it gets damaged. I've got two of them. I ordered two by accident. And so it doesn't matter. I keep it in the tuck box because if the tuck box gets ripped up, I've got another one. And I also just recently ordered the Maybe Lenormand, which is similar to this. It has the full 52 cards. So launching off of this, I will also be using that Maybe Lenormand deck a little bit more often. But I just got that in and I haven't even opened the box yet. Okay, so my Lenormand decks and then my Lenormand adjacent decks. And then I have this quirky little monster. And I got this, I was actually sent this by my mother. Somebody found this deck of Italian, actually, Neapolitan playing cards in somebody's house, maybe my grandmother's house. And so this is a deck of, they're plastic, but they're a very quirky deck. They're not a deck of 52 cards. They're a deck of, I believe it's 40 cards. I forget the number offhand. There's a game that is played with these cards. Scopa and Briscola are Italian card games that are played with this deck. So this is a kind of a pip deck, but there are no major arcana cards. And it only has 3 of the court cards, no women. It has a king, it has a knight, and it has a page. That is all. And it doesn't even have all the numbered cards. Yeah, there are 6s. Now here's a knight. There are 3s. There are 2s. There are 7s. Well, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 7s. And that's the end. It goes from 7 to page. But you can see that these cards are very interesting. The colors are bold, they're bright, the images are simple. It's a very small deck, very easy to use. Here's a page, here's a king, here's the 4 of cups. Yeah, so I would read these as a pip deck. I would read these as, I would read the minors in a pip deck. And I would not use gender for the court cards because there are no female cards, especially. But so, for example, what would I do? For a king, I would say master of their element. For a knight, I would say active practitioner of their element. For a page, I would say a beginner, a novice, someone discovering their element and exploring their element at first. Male or female, male or female, male or female, or non-binary, whatever. Yeah, I don't read gender in these at all. So this is a fun deck to use. I don't use it that much, but again, when I want to play with my pip reading and I don't want to go with a full tarot, I sometimes reach for this because it is simple. It's a little bit difficult for me to shuffle, to be honest, because it is a very small deck and it's plastic. So when I try to shuffle it, for example, they don't bend. It's really, really hard to shuffle, and then I slide them together. And then because they are plastic, when I overhand shuffle, they go flying all over the place. So that is one reason why I don't reach for this all that often. It is difficult for me to shuffle. I love to riffle shuffle, and it hurts my fingers to riffle shuffle. Overhand, they fly all over the place. So what I'm hoping to is get someday is this deck in a paper cardstock. I would love to find that someday. That is my dream, and I'm sure it exists somewhere in space. And I love this deck also because it reminds me of my Italian heritage. Yeah, my grandfather and grandmother on my mother's side are, I'm sorry, my grandfather on my mother's side is Italian, and his parents, my great-grandmother and great-grandfather, are from a village near Naples, called Riccigrano. And so I feel a familial connection with this deck. So it's in my nightstand, my bookcase near my bed. Okay, so that's it for standard decks. Now let me show you decks that I have a practice with. So let me start with my monthly practice. So on a monthly basis, what I do is I pull 2 oracle cards. Let me start with the first one, because this is the first card I pull. And I put them on my altar. Now, this is let me show you the box. This is the Gods and Titans deck by Stacy DeMarco, illustrated by Jimmy Manton. And this is a gorgeous deck and perfect for my variety of gay male. Yeah, I've got all my gods, well, not all of my gods, but a whole bunch of gods from a whole bunch of different cultures. The artwork is beautiful. The bodies are beautiful. It's not as sexual as, for example, my Sabbath Lenormand, or my Sabbath Tarot, but they're gorgeous. Again, we've got deities and spirits and heroes from all over the world. And so what I do is, at the new moon, I will shuffle and I'll draw a card from here. Ganesh has come up for me a few times recently. And put that on my altar as the energy for this lunar cycle. Ra, an Egyptian god. Dionysus, yeah, would be Bacchus for the Greeks, but Dionysus is Roman. Anubis, another Egyptian. Osiris, another Egyptian. Set, another Egyptian. Okay, so there are a lot of Egyptians here. Luke, this is, I think, probably I think this is a Northern European god. Mithras, a Greek, actually human. Yeah, we've got the Jade Emperor from the East. We've got Typhon. I mean, they're all over the place. Hades, lovely, lovely. Loki. So some diversity, not a lot, but some, enough for me. So I draw one of these, and then to add a little bit more of clarity to that, I will use this oracle deck, the Messenger Oracle. This is the first edition with the borders, and I like that, actually, because as an altar card, the borders give it a kind of frame, right? So I like that. And so this paired with, for example, a male deity works beautifully for me. Yeah? So for example, death, let 2 become 1. So the transformation from death into, for example, letting 2 becoming 1. Perhaps life and death becoming 1. Yeah? Typhon, anger, rage. So to be able to move past that, share your thoughts to alleviate that rage, that anger, perhaps. The Jade Emperor, do not fear the unknown. Yeah, the Jade Emperor is organization. But don't get so organized that you're afraid of the unknown. Don't get so engrossed in getting things organized and in order that you fear the disordered or the unorderly or the surprising. So these two decks I read beautifully together for me and do a wonderful monthly reading, well, lunar cycle reading, which I do at the new moon again. And then again, those cards go on my altar. And then my daily practice, I have these two decks. I have my deck for crystals and my deck for essential oils. And what I will do is at the end of each day, I will pull out my crystal deck, for example. I won't use all of the cards because I don't have all of these crystals. Yeah? These crystals that I don't have, I keep to the side. And what I will do is I will shuffle and pull a crystal for the day. And I will use that crystal the next day. And that night during meditation, I will use that crystal. And I will also use my Oracle of Essences for my essential oils. So again, I don't use all of the cards because I don't have all of these oils. I will use the oils that I do have. And I will pull a card, and for meditation, I will use that essential oil. And if I can, I will perhaps even use that essential oil the next day. So I'm not using these decks for their imagery. Yeah, this has meanings to it, intuition, clarity, cycles, but I don't pay all that much attention to it. If it matches, for example, my daily draw, if there's a connection between this card and my daily draw, I will pay attention to that. But I won't give too much attention to it. Now, the back of the crystal cards also gives information. We have what the crystal is, who needs it, and when to use it. We've got information that I acknowledge, but I don't give too much meaning to that. I give more meaning to working with that crystal. I give more meaning to working with that oil, if that makes sense to you. So these are two decks that I use every day. And they're practical decks. They're choosing decks to me. They're not decks for gaining insight into the future or delving deep into my psychological states so much as they're things that I think my body wants or that my spirit wants for me in the physical world. Now that's how I see essential oils. They're healthful things. They're things that help me with both my body and my emotions. Same thing with crystals. I think crystals help me to work with my energy, my physical energy, my health, my ability to function in the world. They support that. They clean my energy, direct my energy. And that's why I use these on a daily basis. So friends, that is the conclusion of my top 10 plus video. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you have any of these decks? How do you work with them? Do you have any decks that are not necessarily your favorites, but ones that you go to all the time? And you don't care if they get a little bit dinged up sometimes. I'd love to hear from you. And comment below. Tell me which of these decks you have, which you like to use, which you would like to use, or differently, what you do use. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.